Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Mr. Fredrick Mohr.
What's up, everybody?
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Fred, and if you want, what you do professionally.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate being a guest on your podcast, and I really look forward to, sharing myself and my story a little bit here. I'm a podcaster myself, and I got into podcasting actually probably about 2 years ago. I had a podcast that was based on like firefighter stuff because I am a career firefighter, and basically I didn't really enjoy doing the podcast for some reason, and my heart wasn't quite into it because I'm also like a fitness guy too, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just keep doing firefighting stuff, but they do tie in together, like there is the physical aspect of the job. And after, being a personal trainer and a firefighter for 16, 17, 18 years, I decided to do a podcast about the steel mace. And the steel mace is an ancient tool. It's a weapon, and it's a weapon that's now a fitness tool. It goes back about 2,500 years or so. It's a little unclear. It's just a stick with a weight on the end of it. Think most basic primitive tool that the first humans that started using tools picked up and learned to use.
It's so versatile too. I mean, like if you want to look at gym equipment being dangerous, if you want to look at gym equipment can probably kill. So I've almost killed myself on a bench press. Okay. But with a steel mace, you got that in your car. If you're going to go out on the beach, you're going to go out and work out with it. You're going to do something like that. You can't kill somebody with a yoga mat. You just can't. You can kill somebody with a steel mace, but I mean, it's so interesting too because, I'm a fitness freak myself too. For people that have listened to my podcast, they know I've worked out every day for 7 years. I did it because I got bullied pretty bad in school. It's a great, motivator, great stress relief, great physical, exertion, especially if you have like a lot of tension, you can just put it right into that. The steel mace, kettlebells, all those free weight type things, I never truly understood until we're spending all this time in isolation now. I ended up, having a set at home, having some more dumbbells and stuff and doing more workouts with them and see how actually even if you're doing like maybe a 15-pound steel mace or if you're doing like a 10, 15-pound kettlebell, I can almost bench press 200 pounds, even though I'm only like 135. Mm-hmm. But that's a completely different workout. With a 10-pound kettlebell, I'm like, fuck, am I weak? Like it's just trying to like do all these exercises, flip it up above your head. It's just insane.
Right. It's the lever, when you add distance between your connection point on the handle and the weight, right? The longer your lever is, technically, the more weight you're actually handling. So a 10-pound mace can really become heavy quickly. It's a 30. Some of your basic maces that you'll find, the cheap ones made in China, they're going to be about 33 inches long. Some of the longer maces are like 41, 44 inches. But just imagine that every inch just adds to the lever. On top of that, the most amazing thing about the steel mace, and this is something that people have to start to think about a little bit, but when you do, it's simple. We're going to find fitness one way or another. Some people got into it the way I did, like you were just mentioning, bench pressing, So when we're young, we want to be jacked, we want to be big, and we could do it. We can move weight even if we're moving it poorly. But after a while, we start to beat ourselves up. And if you think back to all the videos, the books you read, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whoever, they all said form makes the difference. And it's what you put into that form. And if your form is meticulous, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to lower the weight on your bench press or your squat dramatically, because now you're forcing yourself to work within the proper form elements. So the steel mace brings this full circle, pardon the pun, because, we do like to swing the mace behind us in 360s and stuff, but you could use it in a flow pattern sequence type of workout where you're putting tension into the bar, the way we're supposed to be doing it. Ask anybody about deadlifts, right? And they'll say you're supposed to break the bar when you lift the bar up off the floor.
I don't recommend deadlifts at all. That is one of the exercises. I mean, I get all the muscle groups working with it, but like for me, I was hit by a jet ski, so me trying to bend down and pick something up looks like I have to take a shit.
Yeah.
And doing a deadlift, I've seen too many back injuries with it. I mean, I've tried it. My back usually gets sore after it. And I've seen so many professional lifters get messed up by it. But like when we're talking about like steel maces and things, like that's also something that relates to Asian culture a little bit too, with a lot of, pipes and bamboo sticks that used to flail
Yep.
around and spin around, stuff you would see Bruce Lee do on the television. I mean, when those freaking everybody wanted nunchucks after they saw Rise of the Dragon or Enter the Dragon. So
Yeah. It's a tool for a weapon of war. That's really what it was. But let's think about what a warrior has to do with their weapons. They have to be so intimate with how they feel and how they move, right? And so they spend hours and hours a day working with their weapons, swords, bow staffs, nunchuck, mace, flails, whatever your medieval weapons, right? You can't just go into battle not having picked up your weapon in a week and a half. You got to use it daily. It's the same thing with the mace. You spend daily activity, 30 minutes a day, whatever, working with it. And your central nervous system starts to tie it all together. And it's amazing after a few weeks how well you can move a mace and what you could do with it. And if you hunt around on the internet, you can see some crazy stuff going on. You see people doing flow, which they're practically using it like a nunchuck. You can see people doing ballistic athletic stuff with it. And my personal favorite is I like to tie it all together. And I created the Steelmacenation podcast and the steelmacenation.com and my workout programs, all based upon my years of firefighting, doing weight training, going through situations where my back was messed up, going through situations where my shoulders were messed up. And I said, hey, how can I tie this all together? And basically, I created a system where I can train with heavy weights, but I could accommodate it with the mace, either ballistically for metabolic conditioning, or I could use it for flow and just basically resetting my how I feel. If like I'm feeling tired or beat up, I could do a nice slow flow and use it for stretching and warming up. So that's going back to what you said about the versatility and it being dynamic.
yeah, and when you're like looking at a mace too, and you're talking about getting that flow, it's that rhythm. I think we all can experience that in something. I mean, when I was a kid taking nunchucks, like you start going and whipping them around, you throwing them behind the head, doing all this. And you start off slow, and then like halfway through, you start picking up speed, and you're like, oh shit, like I'm into something right now. I'm in this groove, I'm in this jam, and it's flowing, it's rolling through. And then you end up going too fast, going over your head, and you end up getting knocking yourself out or something. That's the
Right.
same thing with a mace. Like if you look at people that kayak or do something, when you're strutting, you're going side to side, you feel that motion start going. Next thing you know, it's just, I mean, it's flowing perfectly. It feels like you're connected. You can hold it out for so long too. It's like when people are running on a treadmill or people are cycling. When did you discover that this thing had this release? Like, how do you go from firefighting podcast or firefighter to a steel mace, I would say, ambassador, really?
All right, that's a good question, and it happened pretty quickly. I was doing that old podcast, and as I was doing that, I was also feeling more and more beat up. I was doing traditional weightlifting, but plus I was working my job, and I went over the 40-year mark, and I got into my 40s, and I always said, hey, I got to stay in shape, but for some reason, I was just feeling beat up, tired all the time, sore like an old man. I remember I was on the floor with my daughter playing with her, and it took me forever to get up, and I had to prop myself up. I said, something's wrong with me, man. And here I am. I'm doing heavy squats, heavy deadlifting every day, just trudging it out, not even having a good time anymore for some reason. So I decided to switch it up. When this kind of stuff happens and you're just like completely thrown off course, it's time to take a step back and say, you know what? I need to maybe go outside the box. I need to switch up my routine. So I kept my gym membership at the box gym, but I decided to go to a real gym where they have real coaches. And I went in there and I said, hey, man, this is my situation. I'm all messed up. I'm a fireman. I need to get back moving again. and they were like, yeah, man, you have like some serious mobility issues in your upper back, and all your stabilizer muscles are screaming. Like, what are you doing all the time? I said, heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, bench pressing. They're like, yeah, man, your central nervous system is fried, and it's all your stabilizer muscles are tight, and they're trying to protect you from injury, and that's why you're tight and sore all the time. So you need to back off that. We need to go through some mobility drills. So we were doing basic, almost like physical therapy stuff. And on the walls at the back of the gym, I see these Mace hanging up. And I had noticed these online a few times, and I have to admit, I kind of wrote it off. I said, it's just some wacky kind of thing. It's not really anything. But I always kind of noticed it was cool looking because it looked like martial arts to me, like something an MMA fighter would use. But not knowing anything more, I ignored it. And then finally, I just asked the coach one day. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Let's try it out. I'll show you." He goes, "It'll be good for your shoulders, actually, because we were trying to get my shoulders back and opened up and get some thoracic spine mobility going on." And he introduced me to some simple swings. And the most common thing that people will see with the Mace is a 360. It goes behind you, and you swing it around in a circle over your head. And it's an ancient move, really. It's a training tactic, and that felt like the best massage in the world right after I did it. Like the blood flow came back to my back, and when I walked out of there, I was relaxed, and I said there was something there. So I went right back the next day, and I kept using it more and more. And then I just became obsessed with it. And within like 2 months, I scrapped the old podcast, and I said the Steelmacenation podcast is born. And the reason why is because I'm new at this, but I see there's other people that have been doing it for 6, 7, 8, 10, 14 years. There's a guy in California, Rick Brown, who's been doing heavy swings for 15, 16 years now. His shoulders are terrific. So I said, I'm on a journey, and I'm going to now document my journey, but I also want to interview all these coaches that are onto something, just in case, like, they don't get lost in time, and it's been unbelievable because I can't even keep up with the podcast. There's more than enough coaches. And if you check out my podcast, what I like to do is deliver something to the audience that they could use. Tips, tricks, training tactics, nutrition, mindset development, self-improvement, but
motivational type talk, which is I have thoughts on it that you might agree with, might disagree with, but what I have a problem with when it comes to motivational speaking is a lot of it is very, you need to go do this, you need to go do that, you need to go do this, and forcing people, it works for some, but for a lot of us, like maybe like me with the problems with authority, I think the best type of motivational things I've ever seen are people that come from an experience. Like, I know how fucking hard it is. Like, it's the same thing we kind of do with addiction a little bit. Me taking chemical dependency classes, I was just fascinated with it because addiction's a big, just recently, actually last week, I had a friend of mine I graduated with that died of overdose. So you're looking at, like, down here, especially like you being, you're close by to where I live in Maryland. It's addiction. All these opioid stuff is crazy going on, really, really bad. So yeah. When you're talking to them and you're asking, do they want help? And they're like, they feel like they're being treated like a hurt victim. They feel like they're being glorified or glamored up, or, you want this on a gold plated pillow or something. It's like, just let them know, like, well, I'm here to help you if you want. But it's so tricky trying to navigate that system too, but it's the same thing for fitness. Telling somebody to get off their ass, screaming at them, it works, but there's also another way to do it too. If they want it, they'll go after it. A lot of people, like, I look at people like me, I'm a fitness guy, like I said, I work out every single day. And let me tell you something. I didn't understand the whole point of stretching. I didn't understand the whole point of massage. I didn't understand any of this. And then I had somebody come up to me and, as like a joke, put their hands on my shoulders, like on the behind them, and just start digging in a little bit in the back. And I'm like, oh, like I felt like I was on the verge of like climaxing. I was like, good God. Right. And they're like, dude, what? And I'm like, can you do that again? Yeah. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not a massage therapist. I was just joking. And I was like, please. And you start to realize how tense your muscles are. And what that really interested me was how much people will ignore the biggest warning signs of their body, telling them that, hey, I need a minute. I never take a rest day. I don't need that shit. I got
Right.
ADHD, so it's like I gotta get this out. But there's also times like I'd be driving to the gym and I have my hand on the wheel and I go to turn left or something, and my hand would just cramp up and look like a lobster claw. And then next thing you know, I'm palming the wheel with my wrist. I'm next slamming my forehead on the wheel, trying to spin my head with the wheel. Like, and my next thing you know,
Wow.
I'm driving. I mean, this is after years and years of going, and I mean, sometimes twice a day. And I would be driving, I would step down on the gas pedal, and my foot would cramp, and it would just start going. And at this point, you're like, it's just got to happen. You're sitting there screaming in pain or something, but
Yeah.
I'm driving down the road like 65 miles an hour and my foot's just going. That should have been a warning sign to tell me, hey, maybe you should rest for a minute, not go right to the gym. And I pulled right
Right.
in the parking lot and walked right in. And then with this isolation stuff going on, I still have time to go and stuff, but I'm doing a lot of my workouts at home, and I'm starting to realize something. There is a benefit to recovery, but there's also a way where, if we talked about before with self-help, um, self-help I do believe in, but I believe in, it's all about the communication you get with people. It's the communication and feedback that you get around you. It's the communication with your body as well. People talk about self-help. I need my days off to relax and work on myself. That's true. That's needed. But also, you wouldn't need all that self-repair stuff at home on your days off if we just weren't assholes to everybody out in the world. I mean, we walk around comparisons, judging, just constantly picking and prodding. I mean, the whole reason why fitness is so damn popular is because we have these beauty standards that gets
Right.
implanted in our head from children.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the steel mace, though. And you hit a lot of points, and I'm glad you hit them because I might have forgot them. For starters, you know, me as a coach, I'm also I was recently promoted to captain on the fire department, and I'm also a drill instructor. And you're taught, you know, you don't yell at people, and you don't set expectations that they're not going to even pay attention to or adhere to. And that's no way to teach people. The way to do it is through understanding and empathy and knowledge of the subject and passion. And if you could deliver passion like yourself, Rob, you know, when you speak, you have a lot of passion, you put a lot behind it. People will be more inclined to listen to what you're saying and at least take a piece of it. So these are some techniques that you learn over time when you're trying to help people through their fitness struggles or whatever it is. But the one thing I could say is also I'm a rebel too. I've always been one. I mean, you know, everybody's telling me don't use the skull and crossbones for a fitness, you know, logo because it's death. And I'm like, no, it's not death. It's stoicism because it reminds us that you know, we're only here for a limited amount of time to make the best of it. So it's actually like a tribute to life, you know. But I'm forever the rebel, such as yourself, and the mace is like the ultimate rebel's workout tool, and it's the kind of thing where a person can say, "Hey, you know what? I don't like want to do what everybody else is doing. I see these jacked dudes all wrapped up and covered with chalk, and they're doing 300-pound squats, and they're screaming and yelling at each other, and who knows what else they're doing. Maybe they're on juice. I can't keep up with that. That's just crazy. You know what? Here's a mace over here. Let me go to a place where I feel comfortable, my backyard, in the woods. Take it up into the mountains with you, down by a river, on the ocean, like you mentioned earlier. The beach is the best place to use a mace because you're in bare feet, and the sand is always challenging your feet and the way you're standing, and it helps build that mind muscle connection, the central nervous system. It makes you more durable. Um, so essentially, you know, the mace, you can make it whatever you want to make it. And if you are one of those jack dudes and you like lifting heavy, you could incorporate the mace easily and look like a badass swinging like 40 or 50-pound mace or something. But like I said, if you're just somebody who's looking for something different and you have struggled with your fitness in the past, maybe the Mace is the answer. It's just a little bit above a body weight workout with some slight weight on it, and it's like a cool martial art. Some people think of it as a dance or like a yoga or something like that, and that's the whole point. You think of it the way you want to think of it, and you subscribe to it the way you want to subscribe to it. Make it yours and add your own personality to it. It's got this way to plug in ancient tool, one of the oldest workout devices in the world, and it's almost like cybernetic in a way. You could plug into it and it could be whatever you want it to be. So it's a lot of fun like that.
It's also probably one of the easiest forms to relieve a lot of stress. Like if you look at weights, yeah, weightlifting relieves a lot of stress, but taking a club, taking a stick, and having where you can imagine a weapon or something, and you can act like you're fighting. You can do whatever. All these people that go like that's why LARPing is probably one of the best exercises. I mean, those guys dressing up as knights and everything, going out there and playing
Dude,
around. That's got to
yeah,
be a workout. But like I've went out before when I was like 17 years old out in my backyard, and I was breaking up stuff to do a bonfire, to getting all the sticks, gathering through the forest and everything. And I was taking these sticks and I would slam them against this tree and break them in half. And
yeah,
my buddy's like watching me. He's like, wow, you got a lot of anger inside of you. I'm like, what? And he's like, dude, you just broke probably like 200 something sticks against that tree. And that one you broke down to like the size of like a pencil. Like you just sat there beating the hell out of the tree. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess weightlifting isn't really getting all of it out. And he goes, you got tension. You got a way to express it. And it's a lot funner when you have a weapon or if you have something where you can just like, hit a punching bag, do all these types of things. Helps get that aggression out. I mean, weights are good. They release a lot of chemicals, endorphins, whatever to help,
right.
that cortisol rush after you get a run. I mean, I always talk about that's the one time you could literally ask for my car keys. I'll give them to you because I'm like, so like, I don't give a shit what
Yeah, yeah,
happens. But it's a different form. And I think what's the biggest problem with the fitness industry, which I think a lot of people are starting to notice, is that it's had the basic template for so long. Eat clean, chicken breast, all this type of stuff. Oh, do this workout, do by this sets, low repetition, high reps, do drop volume, whatever, supersets. It's like that's true for a lot of people, but not everyone. And I think what the biggest problem the fitness industry has is how fact is that it's very intimidating.
yeah,
I've gone every day and I've seen the variety of people. I've seen the people at 2 o'clock in the morning that are doing steroids, that'll do 10 pull-ups the whole time, eat a steak in the gym, which just happened, and they look like they're ripped to hell. I'm like, how do you get like that? They're like, bro, look at me. But I've seen the wide variety, but where I found interest was the mental anxiety that goes behind it. I've seen bodybuilders that wear giant ass jackets because they have body dysmorphia a little bit, like they're
yep.
too afraid to show
Big
themselves.
time. That's
And
a
you're like,
major thing.
I have that myself. I mean, I'm only 3% body fat, but I look at myself in the mirror and see something completely different. It's taken me a hard time to get there and
Yeah.
realize all this type of stuff. But
Yeah, and Rob, you mentioned something about eating the chicken breast and all that stuff. So what happened there was you saw guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and the professionals, right? When we look at the professionals, we all want to be that, right? We all want to be that professional basketball player, or whatever, whatever it is we like. What's happening is it's leaking back. What they do leaks into the normal people's world. So it's like, hey, I want to go to the gym and work out. And yeah, I would like to look like Arnold. Well, Arnold eats chicken breast and egg whites all day long. And you're not going to be able to do that without stressing and anxiety over it. You're not going up on a stage, right? We're just doing this so we can maybe take our shirt off on the beach and pick up a few chicks, or just because we want to feel better. So you have to look at it from the right perspective. And I think everybody gets sucked up into what they're doing and they think that's what they have to do. Now, I'll tell you, I gave my best shot at going up on stage for a bodybuilding contest. And the biggest problem for me was the diet. And the reason why the diet was the biggest problem was because of my shift work on the fire department. My coach wrote up a diet plan, chicken breasts, egg whites. It was low carb, and I'm a big carb guy. I could eat like 3 baked potatoes, no problem,
my
like in one
guilty
shot.
pleasure is cereal, dude. I
It,
eat that every day.
it's the best. It's the best. And the thing is carbs help you stave off stress and cortisol levels. So imagine on my 24-hour shift at the fire department, I'm eating okay all day. but now it's time to go to bed, and I lay down in my rack at 8 p.m. That's supposed to be like where I had my last meal. Well, what happens when I get a bell at 12 o'clock at night and I got to wake up? I got to go, and we do
Get
even.
hungry, dude.
Yeah, you get hungry, and then when I get back, I'm like all messed up, low blood sugar, whatever. So now I go crush the ice cream in the freezer because there's a lot of ice cream in the freezer at the firehouse. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I podcasted with my buddy who's a firefighter, like my fourth episode in, and he goes, the only problem I have with the firefighter industry is like you are getting something at Walmart, like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, you get a call, you got to drop your shit and go. I'm like, damn, dude, Ben and Jerry's comes first, man. I'd be like walking in the burning house trying to put it in their freezer, like, hang on a second.
Hey, I saw a guy eating an ice cream cone while he was driving the fire truck. All right,
I spent all the day
and he
heat,
did
you need
great.
some ice cream.
Yeah, man, ice cream is like that's medicine, man. Ice cream is medicine, and it can fit in right after a meal, no matter how much you ate. I don't care. But yeah, it didn't work out for me, man. I was like dying, and I would come in for my weigh in and my fat calipers, and he would measure me. He'd be like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I'm like, every 4 days, I'm up all for like 24 hours, and I might sleep 3 hours. What do you got for me? He's like, he didn't have an answer for me because he never had to train somebody in that position. So I was like, you know what, forget it. If it's going to be this hard, it's not for me. So that's what it is. Like people have to think about what they need in their life. If you just want to be able to, go out on the weekend and play with your kids or whatever and feel good, you don't need all that crazy stuff. You can eat a pizza, but just got to keep it at a minimum, like just maybe eat pizza once a week, maybe twice a week. You can eat a cheeseburger. I eat French fries, not all the time, everything within moderation. I'm not trying to get up on a stage. I'm trying to feel good. I want explosive power and energy, and I don't want to get injured. And a lot of guys go down, in the fire department where you got knee, lower back, shoulder injuries. Big problems with that. The Mace helps me build in durability and resilience. My joints and my shoulders have never been this strong in my life. And my knees feel awesome all the time. And I'm able to go up and down ladders. And because of the movement with the Mace, the daily practice, I've learned to move my body and put myself out of, a good position and into a bad position and not hurt myself. The Mace challenges your core because it's uneven weight. It's weight on one side. You could spin it around your body. Whatever it is you're doing, it's always lopsided. You're always weight on one side. You're uneven. So you have to learn to engage your core properly. Once you start learning how to engage your core properly, you can't really get hurt that easily. It's very common for a firefighter to reach with something, a tool, and pop something in their back. Well, if you do that with a Mace every day and you do it under trained conditions, that's less likely to happen. And after all this time of using it, I find that's you can't challenge it. I mean, well, you can challenge anything, but everybody that I've interviewed on my podcast, the one question is, has the Mace made you feel better? Does it make you move better? Yes. People have come on the podcast and talked about shoulder injuries being rehabbed with the Mace. So that's the reason why I have the podcast now, is to document this, because a lot of people think it's hokey, that it doesn't, it's not, because it's not traditional weightlifting. It's not what they always say.
You got to change it up, though. Like we talk about, like when I first started, I mean, nobody told me about competition status. Nobody told me about regular, what people try and just stay around 6 or 8% body fat all year round. And then when they go into competition mode, they cut down. I was eating a can of tuna and a stick of celery for a meal. That was a meal. I was doing jet skis, so I was going 12 hours without eating. I was working out 3 hours a day. Then when I didn't have a job during winter, I was working out twice a day. So I would eat a can of tuna, some egg whites or something for breakfast. Then I would go to the gym and burn 1,600 calories on the treadmill. And I did that for months and months and months, to the point I was shredded down. I mean, I'll send you pictures if you don't believe me. And I still look like that. I still have my six pack and everything. I'm a little bit like, I obviously looks like I don't restrict myself a whole lot anymore. Like cereal and stuff has always been my guilty pleasure. But I remember my bodybuilding manager, Chuck, came up to me and was like, why don't you enter a competition? I'm like, cause I don't even like taking my shirt off to get in the shower. Like I'm that shy of my looks. And he goes, check out this. And if you want to drive to it, we can do it. I'm more than happy to line you up for it because you're perfect for it. But I started looking at it. I was like, the one thing that messes me up whenever somebody comes up and asks me advice on weightlifting, comes to ask me advice on nutrition tips. I mean, I've helped people lose 60 pounds. I've helped people lose, gain muscle, make them feel better about themselves. And I'm willing to do that. But the biggest mistake I've ever made was checking the nutrition facts on the back of an item, because now every time I go
Yeah.
and purchase something, I look at everything as a calorie content rather than enjoyment. Ice cream, pints of that stuff. I look at that. I'm like, oh, that's 245. I feel like fucking Rain Man with food.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it. And it takes the joy out of everything. And, if you're really sweating over a cup of ice cream, at that point, it's time to like take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing. Again, if you're planning on being up on stage, that is what you have to do. But most of us are not going on stage, so you can have the cup of ice cream. Now, if it's a sugar issue because you have high blood sugar, well, then that's a different story because that's a major health concern. High blood sugar turns to diabetes. So, a lot of people, they have no perspective on their diets per se. They don't think deep enough. Like, you're talking about reading everything and just feeling like Rain Man, but then there's people on the other end of the spectrum where they don't know what they're eating. I told somebody they were drinking a lot of soda. I said, you need to stop drinking soda. It's all sugar, empty calories, hard on your gut. Just drink water, maybe drink seltzer if you need the bubbly effect. And a week or two later, I see them and they're like, hey, yeah, I switched it up. I'm just drinking ginger ale now. And I'm like, ginger ale soda. And they're like, yeah, but it's not Coke. And I'm like,
It's
well,
good for the
it's
tummy bubbles.
it's got 24 grams of sugar. The whole point of you stopping the soda is to not drink so much sugar. And they were like, oh, and this boggled my mind. I thought that they understood this, and they're not stupid people. They have good jobs and they have families, and it's just something that they don't think about. So yeah, you could get caught, and this is the dichotomy, right? And you want to be somewhere in the middle. Basically, understand your nutrition enough that you're making at least 80% of the time you're making a good choice.
I mean, if we talk about cleaning, I've been eating clean for so long. Every meal I have a can of tuna, I have a salad. I just, I'll add like I use croutons for croutons. I use cereal, so that's like my only guilty thing right there.
No shit, man. That's
Dude,
what cereal?
I have a container that has every cereal that I've ever bought just mixed in there. So I'll get a handful of Honey Smacks. I'll get a handful of Rice Krispie treats. I'll get anything, dude. Frosted Mini Wheats. I mean, just this morning I grabbed some. I had that Dumzer's ice cream that's mixed in there with Raisin Bran. I got to mix with some Raisin Bran and a freaking some of that on top of my salad. It adds that crunch factor because
That's awesome. I love that idea.
it changes up and it's healthier than croutons, to be 100%
Yeah.
honest with you. So like you'll do that, just yeah, shake it up every now and again. I got this container, it's my baby. And it's different too, but also like I learned my spice cabinet. I learned that if you dump oregano on anything, it makes it taste like a Domino's pizza. I
Yeah.
learned if you dump cumin on anything, it makes it taste like Taco Bell. I mean, finding ways, obviously abusing the hell out of hot sauces just to get a little flavor in there and stuff, but when you look at that type of stuff and like I've been doing it for so long that I really enjoy it, but I haven't had bread in forever besides maybe some grains from some cereal. So I'll eat raw cabbage. I'll eat raw tacos, put my food in that way. I wouldn't say that like it's obviously the hardest part's probably the first month. And obviously I get cravings if someone brings home like a pizza or something. I'm like, oh yeah, it smells good. You tear that pizza up. But a lot of what the big issue is with the fitness industry is that it's this thing we're talking about with these like comparisons and stuff, but people talking about, I know it works. I know it works. I know it works. I'm like, you don't know what works. It's what really gets me about the vegan movement. Stop saying you're fucking vegan. I'm sorry. If it works for you, that's amazing, but it's not for everyone. I
No.
tried being vegetarian. I tried being pescatarian. I tried doing whatever. It does not work for anyone. Let them figure out what works for their body. If they don't want to do it, don't put it in your fucking Instagram name. Don't be vegan chick 2020. It's like, how long have you been vegan? About 6 minutes. Oh, it's like, all right. But it's like, I get it. But I've met people that are all like shoving it in your face. It was the same thing when CrossFit became big. It's stereotypical type thinking when you start acting like that, because then people are going to call everybody like that. And it's the same thing with the Steelmacenation. People are probably like saying all that those guys are just idiots swinging a mace around. It's like, it's not, though. It's very beneficial, and there's people that aren't going to take it insane. It's the same thing if you look up if the gym was a like wildlife documentary, and they have like, there's the guy, the animal that makes all the noises and scares the rest of the pack inside the gym. He's just banging deadlifts on the ground, screaming and making grunt noises. There's some people that do that. If you start thinking and start promoting that that's how everybody is, same thing with CrossFitters. Everybody's all about, oh, they're all six-pack douchebags wearing snapbacks or something. It's like, that's not them either. You have to find what works for them, what works for you, and find your own medium. Weightlifting, it's not for everybody. I tell everybody, stick with it for 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks are the hardest. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, don't worry about it. But I come across so many people in the gym that are working out at 1 o'clock in the morning. I work at a 24-hour fitness place. So my clock has literally gone all the way around from working out at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., whatever, just all the way around. So I'll be out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll see a big guy come in and start running on the treadmill. And then he sees me in there and he stops, and then just goes and sits down and acting like he's going to wait for me to leave. I just walk up to him like, dude, you do your thing. I'm going to do mine. Because right now there's mirrors all over this fucking gym, and I'm judging myself every second of it. So I'm like, I'm not even worried about you, dude. He goes, just, do your thing. And it's about that comfortability factor. But it's this comparison lifestyle we live as people that really gets me, because even I'll walk by a car window, I'll fucking stare at myself like, damn, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. So self-deprecating. But it's like, as people, we need to get that out of us, because we are who we are. We need to manifest our own individuality in different ways, not in fitness. Like, oh, you need to have 10-10 looks. No, maybe fucking find a good hobby, find yoga, relaxation, something that works for you. If you're good at building
Fishing.
fucking, yeah, if you're good at building IKEA furniture, build a fucking desk. Like somebody has something you're good at. It doesn't mean you have to do this because society says you need to be like this, or you need to approach these standards. Because I guarantee you, those standards that they're setting, those guys don't even look like that. That's all Photoshop shit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's across the board. And if you start judging yourself based on that, you're not in reality anymore. And that's the problem. That's a good point, Rob. And the steel mace, like I said, you make it what you want out of it, and there is a creative element to it, just like there's a creative element to podcasting. Engaging in a real conversation with somebody in this day of age is a special moment. And I don't take these types of interviews lightly. This is a special moment, because when was the last time? Well, we've been on for 40 minutes now, and we've just been locked in. This doesn't happen anymore. And the same thing happens with the steel mace. When you get into steel mace flow and you start moving that mace around, you start experimenting with patterns, that one move leads into another, and oh, how do I get here? And then what do I do next? This creative element starts to spark something in your mind that seems like it's like this dormant beast. You wake it up, and then it starts to feel really good to engage your mind. And traditional bodybuilding or weight training is just, hey, good form, pick it up, move the weight around, do your sets, and go home. It's very cut and dry, and it's very industrial. And I think, like, when you bring in the mace, you could really expand your fitness horizons, and you'll see that there's a back feed. That fitness leads to better mindset, and mindset leads to better fitness, and it kind of back and forth hems and haws, and they oscillate with each other, because the body in movement is always better. It's better when you're doing something. It's better when you're creative, whether it's physically, mentally, just sitting and reading a book, and then getting up and doing push-ups, and then going back and doing your reading again. A lot of people have done that, to get through college. Like, I'm falling asleep. Okay, I'm going to do 20 push-ups. But you notice you could read more, you could retain more, because you're waking up the body along with the mind. So these are the beneficial aspects to mindful movement practices, such as mace or nunchucks, martial arts, things like that.
Well, you made a good point. You said that it's kind of like you're confined to that area when you're doing a workout or doing a weight lift exercise. Think of that that way. Like somebody set up a fence around that gym equipment and you're stuck inside of it because you can't get your workout in if you don't have that bench press. If you don't have that, you can't do that exercise. So
Yep.
it's not working out. But with a steel mace, you can literally walk out the front door and be like, hey, I'm just gonna go take this down the street. I'm gonna go do what I want with it. It's the same thing. Kettlebells,
Right.
dumbbells. I mean, I'll take 275s, one in one hand and one in the other, and I'll do farmers walks, and I'll just fucking walk. Like next thing you know, you see me down the street going
Yeah.
to go get the mail or something, and I'm like, oh, just gonna carry these bad boys there, and it's like a lot of that's needed too. That's why a lot of people run outside. They like to feel like they're open and they can go where they want to go. For me, I'm too all over the place. If I start running outside, I'll look down at the ground, be like, that's a fucking ladybug, and just like start trailing off. Next thing you know, I'm going into oncoming traffic and stuff. So it's always easier to do a treadmill, but it's also like you're supposed to have freedom and fun in your workouts as well. I mean, going every day, you get so tired to the point where you're driving to the gym like, I don't want to fucking do this, but you
Yeah.
gotta,
It becomes like a chore. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Exactly.
once I get there and I'm like working out, I'm like, all right, I'm in it. And then once afterwards, I feel great. But when on the way there and then sitting there through the workouts, you're sitting there like, I got to do this, got to do that. Change that shit up. You
Yep.
are in a routine every damn day of your life. You are
Yeah.
doing
Exactly.
going to work, you're going home, you're going to work, you're going home, you're paying bills, you're doing this, that, this, that. It's all the same thing. Not saying start being spontaneous, but change it up a little bit. Take a different ride to work in the morning. Maybe change up the route. Maybe instead do something fun with your friends at night. But sadly, the world, you end up getting so damn tired because we're living in this system that's bred to make 9 to 5 workers and all this stuff. And now we're starting to see, especially now with this pandemic type situation, there are so many people that are starting up their own companies. Like, wait a minute, they don't find out after 30 years of working for somebody else that, oh, wait, I wanted to start my own business. I don't have anything for myself. Now they're doing it like, well, I don't have anything to do. I might as well work on this. And you're starting companies starting to start up. I mean, I've met so many people from hot sauce companies like David from Way Hot Sauce, all these
Right.
people. I mean, I just got sent a book today. Shout out to Brant Tobler. He sent me one of his books. He's a famous comedian, one of my favorites. He took the time to be on the podcast and have a conversation. It's all about doing something a little bit different, changing it up, because you never know where it's going to go. You want to talk about conversation, that intimate, whatever type thing of being in the real shit. My phone is on the opposite side of the room because I don't want it to bother me when I'm having a conversation with you. This
Yeah.
is difficult for a lot of people to get through. A lot of people don't have an hour, they say. A lot of people say they're too busy. They have too much going on. That's bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Half the time you're on your phone scrolling up and down, not knowing what you're looking at because it's what you're programmed to do. We lived in this world now where it's just scroll mindlessly, do this, do that without even thinking of it. That's why you ignore symptoms of your body going to shit. I mean, when I
Right.
was waking up in the morning and my legs would pop, they would sound like the dough to the Pillsbury Doughboy, the canister when you turn it and it goes like that loud pop.
Yeah.
That's what was me getting out of bed. I was cracking and popping all over the place, but still going to the gym. And you
Yeah.
look at it now, like you find time to relax. You find time, especially like all this free time we're having. People are reading books. We're starting to, you know, even though we're not supposed to be going to the store, I've seen so many people picking up plants and doing all this type of stuff. It's like you're finally doing something that is good for you, something that's going to heal your mind, your soul. Because what makes sickness more vulnerable to us is when we're weak mentally, we're given up emotionally, all these types of things. It's not just about having a strong immune system, it's about having a strong sense of will as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the will, you follow anything in a history book about any wars, the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, men were put under such arduous conditions. People go, well, how the hell did they survive that cold temperature without the proper clothes and without food and having to fight and everything? Will. It was all will. And that is a testament. And if your will is not there, you're going to go down. And, you got to, that's a main thing. And I think this is where it kind of back feeds into a discussion about like mindset or self-improvement. If then that's just a term. It doesn't have to be taken so critical or literally, but if you notice you don't have the will to get out there and do the things that you want to do in your life, you're scared, or you feel intimidated or whatever, you need to find a way to click in and get that willpower going and not be afraid to go out and make your mistakes and go for the thing that you want to go for. As a firefighter, I am lucky I found a career that I really love. I don't feel like I go to work, but I notice that a lot of the guys work part-time jobs because we have this schedule, and they do jobs that they're not happy with, that they're part-time. It's like arduous, hard work, and they're miserable. And I'm like, wait a minute, you have this killer job as a firefighter, and then on your free time off, you work in a job that you hate. And I said, I'm not doing that. And that was why I started doing everything I'm doing now. And to get onto the podcast to begin with, I said, do I really even know what I'm going to say or do? And it was a long journey for me. With my old podcast, I made a lot of mistakes. I couldn't talk. Sometimes I would freeze up. And you know what? It started to all work out in the end. And I started to feel better. And I still feel like I have room for improvement. I'm not going to just hang back and say, well, I'm there already. My mindset is I'm never quite there. I'm always the student. I'm forever learning.
Yeah. And it's important too, like when I was talking to you and we are setting this up, you messaged me saying if there's going to be scripted questions. And I think what I really try and promote in my free form kind of podcast is the fact that there is no scripted questions, because I feel like that limits you too much. That brings you down to a room and a workaround. Like, we're just going to talk about this the whole time. It happens sometimes because people just don't know how to engage in something else. But we need to work on communicating as people again. I mean, sadly, we've lost it. Sadly, we give autopilot answers. We don't ever really like to think besides yes, no, or maybe so. And with conversation, it's like the best part is like my conversations I've noticed throughout my whole entire life have been completely different and unique than what a lot of people experience on a daily basis. Just where the types of things I think of, the types of things I just come out and say, or someone's like, "Why the fuck do you say that?" It's like because it was on my mind and I felt like saying it. I'm never mean about it. It's just I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of things I like to talk about and things to bring up, but it helps unlock things about people where that comfortability comes up. I mean, it's not an easy task to talk to random people every single day and get that comfortability drop down. It's not easy, but I do an okay job at getting there. And I think everybody has this ability to do so. You do. Everyone in the world has the ability. It's just about actually being attentive and caring to what someone else is saying. Once
Yes.
someone realizes they see your face light up and you're like, holy shit, this guy's actually listening to what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
it's so simple to go from there because we all just want to be heard. We all want to be something for ourselves. It's the same reason why we look up to bodybuilders, we look up to actors and celebrities, and we try and do everything they do, follow their lifestyle and stuff, trying to be like them. It's because we want to be known. We want to be remembered. We don't want to be ever feel like we left this earth and didn't do a single damn thing. And it takes sometimes for some people it takes a while to realize that, like, oh shit, I have nothing for myself. And I'm people say like, oh, maybe I'm just not meant for anything. You are, but you have to find it. And
Yep.
sitting around doing nothing inside your house watching Netflix all day is not going to get you there.
Right. Yeah. You watch the Netflix at the end of the day after a good hard day of doing what you need to do, getting your act together, or finding that thing that you want to do, and then you reward yourself with the Netflix, maybe it's some ice cream,
Well,
and
it's
that's
like,
it. And that's how you live your life, as within moderation of everything. Don't obsess over things, but seek out your goals.
yeah, and people think that like, oh, that means I need to have a 401k now. I need to get a new job now. I need to start doing this. I need to invest in this. I need to get that, whatever. And they start thinking it needs to be now, 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 now. It does
Yeah.
not need to be now, and it does not need to be later. It needs to be a step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit, take a little bit off the surface. When you go in for a cake, you're going to feel like shit if you go in head first and just eat the whole damn thing all at once. But if you take little slices and little bites, you realize you get full faster. If you do it that way and there's still a lot left over. It's the same thing. Slowly dig at it. Slowly take a chunk off
Right.
today. I'll work on the next tomorrow. Take that next, your goal is gone. You completed your challenge. But people think of this mindset, it needs to happen now. Amazon 2-day ship now. It's like, stop. let it just understand, think back on it, let it marinate, let the idea, like, don't get a tattoo right now, wait a little bit, see if you actually want that
Yeah,
tattoo, you know what I mean?
that's right. Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of have these real conversations too. But with the motivational side of things too, I mean, you're technically, with the way you've been going with your podcast and the way you're kind of like doing, is motivation. It's about getting people off their ass and getting them into a better form as well, but more in a way of like understanding, like, this is an amazing thing. Like, you just discovered something, you found the secret, the well of youth, I would say, that, the fountain of
Yeah.
youth.
Right.
And
Good.
a lot of motivational things, people don't speak upon that. They don't speak from experiences. I think this is where my fascination for storytelling and comedy is turned into, is like, it's all about relating. It's all about being relatable, because we live in a world now where everybody they want to brag in public but cry in private. And I think a
Right.
lot more of that needs to be expressed.
Absolutely. That's a very good way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, it's when you're doing your podcast too, what is the main essential thing you really try and show people, besides maybe showing them like a good workout and a better routine? But what's your overall message? Like, you got to go, maybe, is there a primary topic or something that you really try and hit on to make sure you wrap it up at the end? Like, remember, this is the whole point of this.
Yeah. Well, I never really come right out and say it. I put the energy out there. We kind of touched on this, like when you tell people something like this is what you should be doing, it doesn't really ever work. People just don't like to be told what to do, even if it's the best thing for them. So what I like to try to do is just put my passion for fitness and the steel mace out there and show people that, this is a possibility for you. And the other thing is a lot of the audience on my podcast, they're already using a steel mace. Because let's just think about the niche here for a second. A lot of people might be listening to what we're talking about, and they're like, what is this steel mace? They've never heard of it. It's a very fringe element right now. So usually, with something like that, the people who are attracted to it are the people already doing it. So I have a lot of steel mace coaches listening to me. Now, that is big that's a lot of pressure on me, because some of these coaches are unbelievable. They've been doing it way longer than me. All right. And I'm an up and coming coach, and that's just my mentality. And I'm comfortable with being like that, but I need to be able to deliver something to help them too. So sometimes coaching steel mace is, it could be, it's pleasurable, but it could be very challenging. So I like to get the conversation going as to what are some ways we could coach people better, and what are some ways we could get people to actually try the mace, because there's a barrier. We talked about this already today, but people just are afraid to step over that line and just pick it up and go, okay, show me. They're being held back. And how do we coax them over? Because some of these steel mace coaches, they're opening up little studios, and they're trying to make some money and pay their bills, and they could use a few more people in their classes. They need more. And so how can we address this? How can we let other people know that aren't in this little fringe? How can we let them know that the steel mace is actually cool, it's fun, it's productive, you're going to get something out of it, and they should be coming and training with you? So it's a whole dialed in concept of help and motivation for everybody.
I got a joke answer to that one, and I got a real answer to that one. Which one do you
Okay.
want to hear first?
Joke answer.
Okay, all you got to do to get people into the steel mace is just say, if you have an army of 10-year-olds wearing bicycle helmets, how many could you take down with a steel mace? There you go. An endless wave of them. I'm telling you, people would start thinking, they'd be swinging that thing left and right, like, you stole my bike, like doing that. But the real answer is, you have to come from the mindset of what it's like to be overweight. Not that like I was ever super overweight, but if you've ever had a day where you stuff yourself full of food, Thanksgiving dinner, and it's hard to move and it's just hard to, you take a step, you're like, oh, fuck, like get the meat sweats or something. Think from that mindset. Think that there's some people out there that get that on a daily basis just from having a small meal. Maybe it's their metabolism or something. So they know how hard it is. Like, how hard it is to even move. So talk to them like that. The problem is with all these, all these fitness things that would come out like P90X at like 5 or 6 in the morning. It's some dude ripped working out with a bunch of ripped people behind them. It's like it made it so unobtainable and so unrelatable to a lot of people that wanted this help and wanted this situation, one of these things. Jillian Michaels DVD, it's nice to stare at her, but still it was not fun because a lot of people are like, I can't do that. You need to come at it like, hey, I know this shit's hard, but you put in that progress, not saying finish this today, not saying whatever, just do a little bit here and there, keep trying and trying and trying, and you will build progress. I've seen so many people talk about, well, might as well start my diet while I'm in this isolation. Up 5 minutes in, I give up. It's just too difficult. Maybe tomorrow. It's like, you're not giving yourself the chance. You're wanting yourself to fail so you can just have an excuse to go do something else. It's like you're not going to look for anything. Find a better way. I know so many people that don't work out, but they go and do manual labor activities that I could never do. Like my buddy cuts wood all day and stacks lumber all over the place, carrying logs and logs and logs. I can't do that, but I can bench press easy. He doesn't bench press. It's a different form. Find what makes
Yeah.
you physically active. Find your niche. It's so easy.
Your buddy with the logs, he's doing good work there. That is, if anything, that's what you do, especially if you have a fireplace. Don't pay for other people to cut up your wood for you. All right. You got to, it's like 100 here in Jersey. It's like $170 for a half a cord of wood. Are you kidding me? Go get the wood. All right. You chop it up. Don't get the hydraulic thing. Get the splitter and use a sledgehammer and split it. Stack it up and take care of that wood. Let it temper over a year or whatever before you use it. But that is great stuff. Now, and you're working with the earth too. Rob, do you want it, since this is going to be on video now? Do you want me to hold up a mace so that people can see what we're even talking about?
Yeah, because I have a baseball bat by my bed, so I want to see this steel mace.
Okay, yeah, maybe we should have done this in the beginning, but here you go.
Oh my word! You can hear it too.
This is a 10-pound. This is the Chinese made. This is like your most typical mace that you're going to find out there. Probably in about the $40 range.
I've seen one of those at Red Light District near my place. same length and everything.
You didn't touch it, did you?
No.
So this bad boy is, pretty good to work with when it comes to doing steel mace flow. Now I'm going to show you something really interesting. Okay, so this is the ADX steel mace, and it's a little different. I hope the lighting is good on it. But as you can see, the handle is actually skinnier. It's got this pommel on the end, this ball on the end. And over here, the weight actually is adjustable. Okay, so you can take the weight off in 2.5, 5 pound increments. Right now, this is set at, let's see, so it's 6, 7, 8.5, 9, 10. This is 15 pounds right here. And you could go all the way down to 6 pounds, but you could go heavier. I have more weight over there. I could go from 6 to 35, 40 pounds. And this is actually a interesting mace because it's adjustable. So you can have like every size and weight. And it is the official mace that they use in the vintage strength games, which kind of travels around the country. And the vintage strength games uses the ADX mace and the ADX club, and I'll show you that. Here's the club, all right? And you notice my hand's wiggling around. This is set at 10, 20, it's 25 pounds right here, all right? So it's a very short handle. So there's another thing out there, it's called club training, and it falls in the same wheelhouse as mace. Consider it centrifugal movement or torque or whatever, but we're talking about ancient movements here. And
do you understand how good Babe Ruth would be if he practiced with that size steel mace?
Dude, if he just maybe didn't eat 10 hot dogs at a game, he would have been better. But
If you're
yeah.
hitting homers, you can do that. Holy crap! But I mean, if we had like athletes, like I've seen how popular it is now, and people are wondering like, what happened? How did they become so freakishly good? There's a multitude of things, but let me tell you something: the training that they go through now too, even if it's like he just uses steel maces all day, that's some fucking training. You're building up essential muscles. I could sit there and bench press over and over and over again and get those muscles to bench 8 different plates or something. But then what's that going to activate? I could still, barely lift up logs of wood and carry them on my back or something. There's different muscles that are being worked.
Yeah, it's how you incorporate the whole chain, your kinetic chain. Bench pressing, you're isolating. That's great if you want to build up the muscle, make it look bigger, get stronger in that one direction. But when in real life did our ancestors ever lay down underneath a thing to lift it? Like, did they ever lay down underneath the woolly mammoth that they just
if your
killed?
horse cart broke, maybe you had to jack it up that way, but I don't see any
Maybe.
other way.
But chances are, if anything, you were using your whole body. You were
swinging
lifting,
swords, man. Swinging swords.
battling, getting into these these positions that would like blow out people's backs nowadays. With the mace, you're working in what is called the transverse plane a lot, and that's the side to side, right? Everything that we're talking about with the traditional weight training is forward and back, sagittal plane. So side to side is athletic movements. So baseball players, right? Slow down or look for a video of a pitcher and what their body is actually doing when they're pitching. And it is frigging mind blowing what they're actually doing. And they're working in that transverse plane. And there are now baseball players who are using steel mace. There's MMA fighters have been using them for like 10, 15 years now. They get it. They get it because the most likelihood of injury for an athlete is when they're doing a direction change, and it's usually in that transverse plane. That goes for regular people too. Think about when you slip and fall. Your foot goes back and your knee bends a funny way. And that's where people say, oh, I slipped on ice and I blew out my knee. How the hell did you blow out your knee? They think it's because they slipped on the ice. It's not. It's because their body is unprepared for that position and the stress that you put on it. How do you get there? With proper training, weights and conditioning, body weight movements, steel mace, wrestling, climbing trees with your kids, jumping on trampolines, pushing your friend's broken down car down the street, whatever, anything, but something that puts your body in a position and it reinforces, makes it more durable. And that's what I love about the mace. I feel less likely I'm ever going to get hurt, knock on wood.
Yeah, just finding a better way to keep those muscles activated as well. It doesn't need to be a gym. It doesn't need to be lifting weights. It just needs to be something to, not where you're sitting down all day and being sedentary for so long. I mean, when you're being so sedentary for so long, it just, your body just, you feel like crap the next day. You're like, I don't feel right. But after like a day of like moving around, doing whatever you want, even if you're going out to your garden or, you're building IKEA furniture, you're still activating some muscles and some dexterity in there too, which is
definitely
prime importance. So you don't leave your car in the garage for months and months and months and then try and just hurry up and drive it right as soon as you start it. No, you let it sit and run and let it warm up. Same thing you gotta do with your body. You got to warm up every day.
Yep. That's it.
And it's important too. And I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Fred, man.
Yeah, this was great. I love talking this stuff. For me, I like I said earlier, I refer to it as a part-time job. And I guess you could say that because, that's, how I make additional money on the side, but I would do this for free. And I probably actually lose money. When I was doing the podcast in the beginning, I was actually using a professional podcast studio, and I was laying out $55 an episode, sometimes shooting up to 4 episodes a week. And people were like, dude, what are you, crazy? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just love doing it. And I don't mind. Now, because of COVID-19, I have to do it from my home, which is saving me money. And I'm out of my comfort zone and I'm learning how to do editing and stuff. And I'm probably just going to keep doing it out of my home and saving the money and, continue along. But just getting out and talking shop and having fun. I have plans as soon as the quarantine is over. I already have plans with other people. We're going to be traveling around the country doing Mace workshops, starting off in Massachusetts, and then we're going to be going out to Oregon. And then I'm going to be doing a workshop down in Louisville, Kentucky for a bunch of firemen. And I have a certification that I'm diligently working on. It's going to be up online, hopefully by the time people hear this. And, it's a downloadable certification with video links and instruction. And along with that is the 21-day Steel Mace workout challenge. There's also Steel Mace Firefighter, which is a more like a custom-made program where I interview people, and then basically we put together a strength and conditioning mace program. So you're bringing in everything. It's pretty much like it's like Jeet Kune Do. If anybody knows what Jeet Kune Do is, Bruce Lee's take on martial arts, where he took all forms of martial arts and put them into one form that he felt was most useful. And that's kind of what Steel Mace Firefighter is. It's strength training, weight training, CrossFit style stuff, kettlebells, mace, body weight, wearing a weight vest, swinging a mace and slamming it into a tire, that kind of stuff. So that's all. You can find that on steelmacenation.com. And I'm on Instagram at steelmacenation, or you can find me at steelmace fireman.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.